Joining me now is California Attorney General Rob Bonta, one of the state attorney generals suing the Trump administration. Thank you so much for joining me, Mr. Attorney General. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Great to be with you.
Well, it's great to have you. What was your reaction to that judge's ruling and the fact that the judge didn't say the USDA has to disperse the funds?
Well, we were gratified that not just one, but two different courts found in our favor. They reflected our arguments and our view of the facts and the law, and found that the federal government was unlawfully withholding billions of dollars of funding that is available and should be used to pay for food stamps for hungry Americans across the country. That was good. We are still awaiting more detail and specificity around how much of the funds will be sent to which states by when. And of course, this is urgent. We have Californians and Americans who are facing immense harm and imminent harm, and they need their food tomorrow. So we are awaiting more details from the courts as to how much of the funds will be sent out. But we are gratified that there was a finding that the government was acting unlawfully and that the federal government must expeditiously send SNAP funding food stamps to the hungry in our country.
What is your sense of the next steps in this case? In other words, do you get the sense that the Trump administration is asking top economic advisor Kevin Hassett about this earlier today, and he disagreed with the ruling and said, look, this is really a shutdown that's been caused by Democrats. Do you get the sense they're going to appeal?
It's up to them whether they're going to appeal or not, and they have frequently appealed, so it wouldn't be a surprise if they did. But it's up to them. There's certainly irreparable harm in the form of people starving. Health and lives are at stake. That supports our case that we need this funding sent out immediately. And this has nothing to do with the government shutdown. In fact, this contingency fund is supposed to be used in exigent emergency circumstances like a government shutdown. That's why it's a contingency fund, for the contingency of the normal operational funds not being available. So the next step is for the District of Massachusetts to have a hearing on Monday to hear the federal government's plan as to how much money they're going to send out and to which states. And then in the District of Rhode Island, the second court order in our favor will get more specificity in a written order that should come out anytime, including today, indicating how much the federal government is required to spend from the contingency fund and to which states it must send that funding.
Well, what do you make of Kevin Hassett's, the administration's argument that the fastest way to get these funds to the millions of people who rely on them, including more than 5 million people in your state of California, is for Democrats to vote with Republicans to reopen the government and then negotiate over their health care demands?
It shows that they are trying to weaponize this issue. They are trying to starve hungry Americans so that the Democrats sign on to something where the Republicans can then steal Americans' health care. And the fastest way for hungry Americans to eat is for the federal government to follow the law, do their job, and spend the $5 to $6 billion that are in the contingency fund that is sitting there. They are lying when they say, quote, the well has run dry. It is full of $5 to $6 billion worth of funding for food for hungry Americans. So they're playing games. They are treating our most vulnerable Americans like political pawns, our children, our seniors, our sick, our poor, our disabled, our veterans, and it's disgusting, dangerous, and damaging.
What do you say to those Americans, to those Californians who are afraid right now, who don't know how they're going to put food on the table?
I say we're fighting for you. We see you. We value you. We will have your back and fight for the food that you are owed. We will fight against the Trump administration, who is trying to starve you and withhold food for you that is available if they would just not cruelly and unlawfully withhold it. So we have 26 states that have your back and want you to eat and are doing everything in our power to help make sure you get the funding you are owed from the federal government.
Let me turn to another issue now. There are obviously going to be elections in California and other states across the country on Tuesday. You have announced that California will be deploying observers to watch the federal election monitors. You said President Trump is, in fact, laying the groundwork to potentially challenge the passage of Prop 50. That's the proposition being pushed by Governor Gavin Newsom that would enable Democrats to add additional seats in the state. What evidence do you have that these federal election monitors are laying the groundwork to potentially challenge Prop 50?
We have the evidence of their leader, Mr. Trump, sending them to California when he is someone who already posted, Truth Social post, that the California elections are dishonest. He stated that and concluded that without any evidence, without the monitors even have being sent and reporting back and gathering any information from. He has concluded it. And he has shown that he's willing to weaponize government, like installing U.S. Attorney Lindsey Halligan with no criminal prosecution experience to go after his political enemies and indict them. He has interfered with elections in the past, trying to get the Secretary of State of Georgia to find 11,000 votes, trying to overturn an election on January 6th with an insurrection, trying to end vote by mail. He's issued unlawful and unconstitutional executive orders trying to disenfranchise Americans that we have gone to court to block. We have the evidence of this president time and time again trying to interfere with elections and trying to promote unfounded conspiracy theories that are a figment of his imagination about widespread voter fraud when it doesn't exist. So we cannot be naive, and we have to see this sending of federal monitors by this president in that context and be ready. They can do their job. They can observe, have that limited role to watch. We welcome the transparency. California elections are accurate. They are secure. They are safe. They are transparent, but they need to stay in their lane. So we're going to have observers there that ensure that those federal monitors stay in their lane.
All right. California Attorney General Rob Bonta, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.